Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the press conference hosted by the State Council Information Office. Today we are going to brief you on the national economy. We are happy to have Mr. Fu Linghui, spokesperson and Director General of the Departments of Comprehensive Statistics of the National Bureau of Statistics, to brief you on the Chinese economy in July 2023 and to take your questions. I will now give the floor to him. Friends from the press, good morning. First of all, please allow me to brief you on the major indicators of the economy in July. In July, the economy continued the steady recovery in July. In July, under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, all regions and departments firmly implemented the decisions made by the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, followed the general principle of pursuing progress while maintaining stability, fully and faithfully applied the new development philosophy on all fronts, accelerated efforts to foster a new development paradigm, intensified macro policy regulation, and focused on promoting high-quality development. As a result, the national economy continued to recover. Production and demand were stable, employment prices are steady, and development quality kept enhancing. First, service sector maintained fast growth, with modern service industries showing sound momentum. In July, the index of services production increased by 5.7% year-on-year, and of accommodation and catering, of information transmission, software and information technology services, of financial intermediation, and of transport, storage and post grew by 20, 11.2, 7.6 and 7.3% respectively year-on-year. In the first 7 months, the index increased by 8.3% year-on-year, and in the first 6 months, the business revenue of large services enterprises went up by 7.5%. In July, the business activity index for services was 51.5%, and business activity expectation index for services was 58.7%. The business activity index for air transportation, express mail services, telecommunication, broadcast, television and satellite transmission services, and internet software and information technology services stayed within the high expansion range of 60% and above. Second, industrial production grew steadily, and raw material manufacturing picked up pace. In July, the total value added of large industrial enterprises grew by 3.7% year-on-year, or up by 0.01% month-on-month. The value added of mining up by 1.3%, manufacturing up by 3.9%, and production supply of electricity, thermal power, gas and water up 4.1%. Value added of raw material manufacturing up by 8.8% year-on-year, or 2 percentage points faster than that of June. Value added of state-holding enterprises up 3.4%, shareholding enterprises up 5%, enterprises funded by foreign or Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan investors down by 1.8%, and private enterprises up 2.5%. Output of solar cells and new energy vehicles up by 65.1% and 24.9% respectively. In the first 7 months, total value added of large industrial enterprises up by 3.8% year-on-year. In July, the manufacturing purchasing managing index stood at 49.3%, and production and operation expectation index stood at 55.1%. 3. Market sales continued to recover, and consumption of services went up fast. In July, total retail sales reached 3.676 trillion yuan, up by 2.5% year-on-year, or down by 0.06% month-on-month. Retail sales in urban areas reached 3.192 trillion yuan, up 2.3% year-on-year. In rural areas, it reached 484.1 billion yuan, up by 3.8%. The retail sales of goods, 3.248 trillion yuan, up 1%. Catering income, 427.7 billion yuan, up 15.8%. Of the total retail sales by large retailers, the retail sales of grain, edible oil and food of traditional Chinese and Western medicine, of beverage, and of telecommunication equipment went up by 5.5, 3.7, 3.1 and 3% respectively. In the first 7 months, total retail sales of consumer goods reached 26.4348 trillion yuan, up 7.3% year-on-year. Online retail sales totaled 8.3 trillion yuan, up by 12.5%. Online retail sales of physical goods were 6.98 trillion yuan, up 10%, accounting for 26.4% of total retail sales. Retail sales of services up by 20.3% year-on-year in the first 7 months. Fourth, investment in fixed assets continued to scale up and investment in high-tech industries grew fast. In the first 7 months, investment in fixed assets, excluding rural households, was nearly 28.6 trillion yuan, up by 3.4%. Investment in infrastructure up by 6.8%, manufacturing up 5.7%, real estate development down by 8.5%. The floor space of commercial buildings sold was 665.63 million square meters, down by 6.5% year-on-year. Total sales of commercial buildings were nearly over 7 trillion yuan, down by 1.5%. Investment in primary industry down by 0.9%, second industry up by 8.5%, and tertiary industry up by 1.2%. Private investment down by 0.5%. Investment in high-tech industries up by 11.5%, of which the investment in high-tech manufacturing and high-tech services up by 11.5% and 11.6% respectively. In terms of investment in high-tech manufacturing, medical equipment and measuring instrument and meter, and electronic and communication equipment grew by 16% and 13.9% respectively. In terms of investment in high-tech services, services for transformation of scientific and technological achievements, and in professional technical services up by 44.9% and 23.8% respectively. In July, investment in fixed assets dropped by 0.02% month-on-month. 5. Imports and exports of goods dropped year-on-year and trade structure continued to improve. In July, total foreign trade in goods was 3.456 trillion yuan, down by 8.3% year-on-year. Exports was over 2 trillion yuan, down by 9.2%. Imports were 1.44 trillion yuan, down by 6.9%. Trade balance was 575.7 billion yuan in surplus. In the first 7 months, imports and exports of goods was 23.55 trillion yuan, up by 0.4% year-on-year. Total exports were 13.47 trillion yuan, up by 1.5%. Imports were over 10 trillion yuan, down by 1.1%. In the first 7 months, general trade increased by 2.1%, accounting for 65.4% of total imports and exports, 1.1 percentage point higher than that of the same period last year. For private enterprises, foreign trade grew by 6.7%, accounting for 52.9% of total foreign trade. 6. Employment was generally stable and urban surveyed unemployment rate held steady. In July, the urban surveyed unemployment rate was 5.3%, up by 0.1 percentage points over June. The rate for population with local household registration was 5.3%, for population with non-local household registration was 5.2%, and for those non-local agricultural household registration holders, it's 4.8%. The rate in 31 major cities was 5.4%, down by 0.1 percentage points over June. 7. Consumer price went up month-on-month and decline of producer prices for industrial products narrowed. In July, the CPI went down by 0.3% year-on-year, or up by 0.2% month-on-month. Prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol down by 0.5%, clothing up by 1%, housing up 0.1%, articles and services for daily use down by 0.2%, transportation and communication down by 4.7%, 2.4%, education, culture and recreation up by 2.4%, medical services and healthcare up by 1.2%, and other articles and services up by 4.1%. In terms of food, tobacco and alcohol prices, pork down by 26%, fresh vegetables down by 1.5%, grain up by 0.3%, and fresh fruits up by 5%. Core CPI, excluding the prices of food and energy, went up by 0.8% year-on-year, 0.4 percentage points faster than June. In the first 7 months, CPI went up by 0.5% year-on-year. In July, the producer prices for industrial products dropped by 4.4% year-on-year. The decline narrowed by 1 percentage point compared with June. It was down by 0.2% month-on-month. Purchasing prices for industrial producers dropped by 6.1%. The decline narrowed by 0.4 percentage points compared with June. It was down by 0.5% month-on-month. In the first 7 months, producer prices for industrial products and the purchasing prices for industrial producers went down by 3.2% and 3.5% year-on-year. Generally speaking, in July, the national economy continued to recover with solid progress in promoting high-quality development. We are aware, however, that the international political and economic situation is complex. Domestic demand remains inadequate. Foundation for economic recovery needs to be consolidated. Going forward, we will follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, follow the general principle of pursuing progress while maintaining stability, fully and faithfully apply the new development philosophy on all fronts, accelerate efforts to foster a new development paradigm, and comprehensively deepen reform and opening up. We will intensify macro policy regulation, make solid efforts to expand domestic demand, shore up confidence, and forestall risks, so as to further improve the economy, boost internal drivers, improve social expectations, and diffuse risks, in a bid to promote effective improvement of the quantity and appropriate expansion of the economy in terms of quantity. Before taking your questions, I would like to brief you on one more thing. From August this year, the surveyed unemployment rate for the youth will not be released because the economy is changing and the statistical work needs to be improved. For example, the size of university students continue to grow. In 2022, there were 96 million university students, and their main task is to study. Whether those job seekers, before they graduate, should be incorporated into statistics, that is to be studied and determined. And we see that there is an increase of studying hours for students, and there is a need for more study in terms of the age range. On this, we will continue to improve our statistical work, and we welcome your inputs and suggestions so that we will further improve our statistical work so as to further provide service to the national economy. I'm very happy to take your questions.
7月份 PPI 同比下降 4.4%， 同比环比降幅均收窄。请问有哪些有利因素？当前下游行业需求仍然偏弱，这会怎样影响接下来的 PPI？ 谢谢。
好，谢谢您的提问。工业生产者出厂价格的变化呢，也受到各方面的关注。那么从7月份情况来看呢 ，PPI 呢7月份同比下降 4.4%， 降幅呢是比上月收窄了1个百分点。从环比来看呢，7月份 PPI 呢是下降 0.2%， 降幅比上月也是收窄了 0.6个百分点。那么 PPI 呢降幅呢同比降幅收窄呢是今年呢以来呢第一次首次出现同比收窄。那么主要的原因呢，一个是呢国际输入性因素的影响。那么受到国际市场的原油、有色等价格上行的影响，国内相关行业价格降幅收窄。那7月份呢，石油和天然气开采业的价格呢下降了 21.5%。 降幅比上月收窄了4.1个百分点。化学原料和化学制品制造业的价格下降了14.2%，降幅呢也比上个月收窄了0.7个百分点。有色金属冶炼和压延加工业的价格下降1%，降幅收窄比上个月收窄了6.2个百分点。二是国内部分工业行业的供求关系有所改善，相关价格呢降幅收窄。7月份呢，煤炭开采和洗选业价格同比下降19.1%，降幅比上月收窄0.2个百分点。黑色金属冶炼和压延加工业的价格下降了10.6%，降幅收窄了5.4个百分点。3是上年同期的基数有所走低，上年7月份的 PPI 同比上涨4.2%，涨幅呢是比上年6月份回落1.9个百分点。此外呢，部分消费品行业的价格上涨也带动了 PPI 的改善。7月份呢，文教、工媒体育和娱乐用品制造业价格上涨6.3%，纺织、服装、服饰业价格上涨1.2%。那么从下阶段情况看，尽管外部输入性因素存在一定的不确定性，但是随着国内经济的稳步恢复，产业结构调整持续优化，工业领域供求关系有望逐步改善，加之上年基数的逐步走低， PPI 降幅呢有望进一步收窄。那么 PPI 降幅收窄呢，对于改善企业的生产经营有望发挥积极的作用。谢谢。
好，请继续举手提问。好，这边吧，第6排那位女记者。对。
谢谢主持人。副司长您好，我是总台央视记者。从刚刚发布的数据看呢，7月份部分经济指标增速比上月有所放缓，请问主要原因是什么？您如何评价7月份经济运行的状况？谢谢。
好，谢谢您的提问。7月份呢，部分主要指标呢增速呢有所放缓呢，是月度之间的一个正常的波动总的来看呢，7月份的生产需求呢保持平稳增长，就业物价总体稳定，产业升级稳步推进，民生保障有力有效，国民经济持续恢复，运行总体平稳。主要表现在以下几个方面：一是国内需求继续扩大，暑假旅游等服务消费呢明显回暖，对消费扩大支撑作用明显。1到7月份服务零售额同比增长了20.3%，社会消费品零售持续增长，7月份同比增长2.5%。重点领域投资保持较快增长，1到7月份基础设施、制造业投资分别增长6.8%和5.7%，均快于全部投资的增速。2是产业升级态势持续，高技术产业投资较快增长，1到7月份高技术产业投资同比增长11.5%，明显快于全部投资的增速。其中电子及通信设备制造业、科技成果转化服务业投资均保持在2位数左右的增长。装备制造业增势较好，1到7月份装备制造业增加值同比增长6.1%，继续快于全部规模以上工业。现代服务业发展向好，1到7月份信息传输、软件和信息技术服务业生产指数同比增长11.9%。3是就业物价总体稳定，城镇调查失业率低于上年同期。7月份全国城镇调查失业率为5.3%，受季节性因素影响，比上月上升0.1个点，但是低于去年同期0.1个点。居民消费价格环比上涨，受上年同期基数较高的影响，7月份 CPI 同比下降0.3%，但环比上涨0.2%，为今年连续5个月环比下降后首次上涨。扣除食品和能源的核心 CPI 同比上涨0.8%，涨幅比上月扩大0.4个百分点。4是创新和绿色发展势头较好，创新驱动发展动能增强，科技投入持续增加，相关产品相关高技术产品的制造快速增长。1到7月份科学研究和技术服务业投资同比增长23.1%。7月份智能消费品制造业 增加值同比增长15.3%。绿色低碳转型持续深入，新能源产品较快增长。7月份新能源汽车、太阳能电池产量分别增长24.9%和65.1%。五是民生保障有力有效，面对高温天气和部分地区严重洪涝灾害，各方面积极推动国内油气增储上产，加强迎峰度夏电力供应保障，抓好重点民生商品的市场保供，保障了生产生活的总体稳定。1到7月份，原煤产量同比增长3.6%，发电量增长3.8%。7月份粮食价格同比上涨0.3%，比上月回落0.2个百分点。鲜菜、猪牛羊肉价格都有所回落。当然，也需要看到，国际环境依然复杂严峻，国内经济恢复仍面临挑战。下阶段要深入贯彻落实党中央、国务院的决策部署，坚持稳中求进工作总基调，强化稳增长、稳就业、防风险，精准有力实施宏观政策，推动经济高质量发展，努力实现经济质的有效提升和量的合理增长。谢谢。